Are you ready to delve into the dark corners of our world? The places where fear festers and shadows whisper? Tonight, we explore the chilling reality of the unknown. These aren't just stories, they're glimpses into the unsettling truths that linger just beyond our perception. We'll journey through time and terror as we uncover three deeply unsettling true horror stories, each more bone-chilling than the last, from haunted rooms that echo with the anguish of the past to vanishing souls swallowed by the wilderness. We'll confront the unsettling reality that some mysteries are never meant to be solved. So, turn off the lights, grab a blanket, and prepare to be pulled into the abyss of fear itself. These are the stories that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the world around you, the stories that will stay with you long after the screen goes dark. Our journey into the heart of darkness begins with a place that has become synonymous with dread and unease. Room 104 of the Grand Blackwood Hotel. The year was 1922. A young woman filled with dreams and aspirations checked into the hotel, her eyes sparkling with the thrill of a new adventure. She had secured a job in the bustling city, a chance to escape the confines of her small town and embrace a life of her own. Room 104, with its high ceilings and antique furniture, seemed like a charming haven, a place where she could rest and recharge after long days of chasing her ambitions. But something sinister lurked beneath the surface of the room's antique charm. On the first night, a sense of unease crept over the young woman, an icy finger trailing down her spine. The air grew heavy, as though an unseen presence had entered the room, its unseen eyes watching her every move. Sleep offered no escape. Vivid nightmares plagued her, each one more terrifying than the last. She would wake in a cold sweat, her heart pounding against her ribs like a frantic bird trapped in a cage. Days turned into sleepless nights. The once charming room now felt like a suffocating prison. One evening, as the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the city, a blood-curdling scream echoed through the halls of the Grand Blackwood. Hotel staff rushed to room 104, their hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and morbid curiosity. Inside, they discovered a scene that would forever stain the history of the hotel. The young woman lay lifeless on the floor, her eyes wide with terror, her face contorted in a silent scream. The cause of death remained a mystery, but whispers of foul play and a malevolent presence in room 104 began to circulate. Years turned into decades, and the legend of room 104 grew darker with each passing season. Guests reported strange noises, disembodied whispers, and the feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. Some claimed to have seen the ghostly apparition of the young woman, her face pale and drawn, her eyes filled with an unearthly sadness. But the true horror of room 104 wasn't simply the tragic death of the young woman, it was the discovery, made years later during renovations. Hidden deep within the walls, concealed behind layers of plaster and wallpaper, was a small wooden box. Inside the box, investigators found a collection of letters written in a hurried, desperate hand. They were from the young woman penned in the final days of her life. The letters revealed a chilling truth. She hadn't been murdered. She had taken her own life, driven to the brink of madness by an unseen tormentor. But the letters also contained a horrifying revelation. The young woman wrote of a voice, a sinister whisper that haunted her thoughts, urging her towards the abyss of despair. It was a voice that seemed to emanate from the very walls of room 104, a voice that had claimed her soul and condemned her to an eternity of suffering within the hotel's haunted walls. Our next tale takes us deep into the unforgiving wilderness, where nature's beauty can quickly transform into a deadly trap. It's the story of a seasoned hiker, a man who found solace in the solitude of the mountains, a man who vanished without a trace. His name was Mark, and he knew the trails like the back of his hand. Every twist and turn, every towering tree and babbling brook held a familiar comfort for him. He felt most alive when surrounded by the raw, untamed beauty of the wilderness. One crisp autumn morning, Mark set off on what was supposed to be a routine hike. He planned to spend the day exploring a new trail, one that promised breathtaking views and a chance to escape the noise and chaos of everyday life. He kissed his wife goodbye, promising to be home before nightfall. Hours turned into a day, then two, then a week. Mark had vanished. Search parties scoured the mountain, their calls echoing through the silent trees. But there was no sign of him. His wife clung to hope, But as days turned into weeks, a chilling realization began to set in. The trail Mark had chosen was known for its unpredictable weather and treacherous terrain. Experienced hikers knew to approach it with caution, but Mark, confident in his abilities, had assured his wife it was nothing he couldn't handle. As the search continued, a sense of unease settled over the rescue teams. Something didn't feel right. Mark's disappearance defied logic. He was an experienced outdoorsman, well-equipped and familiar with the area. How could he simply vanish? Days turned into weeks, and the search for Mark was eventually called off. His disappearance remained a haunting mystery, a chilling reminder of the unforgiving nature of the wilderness. His wife, heartbroken and shattered, was left to pick up the pieces of her life, forever haunted by the unknown fate of her beloved husband. Years later, a group of hikers stumbled upon a dilapidated cabin hidden deep within a secluded grove of trees, far off the beaten path. Curiosity got the better of them, and they cautiously approached, their footsteps light on the overgrown path. As they peered through a dusty window, they were met with a sight that sent chills down their spines. Inside the cabin, they saw a makeshift bed, a tattered backpack, and a few personal belongings scattered about. It was clear someone had been living there, surviving in isolation for an unknown amount of time. But it was the message scrawled on the wall that sent a wave of terror through their veins. Written in charcoal, in a shaky, desperate hand, were these chilling words: "I'm still here, don't follow the whispers." The hikers fled the cabin, their hearts pounding in their chests. The image of the message seared into their minds. They reported their discovery to the authorities, who quickly linked the cabin to the disappearance of Mark, the missing hiker, all those years ago. But the true horror of Mark's story wasn't simply his disappearance or the unsettling discovery of the cabin. It was the realization that he might still be out there, lost and alone, driven to the brink of madness by whatever whispered to him in the wilderness. Our final tale takes us from the vast wilderness to the confines of our own homes, a place where we seek comfort and security. It's a story about the unsettling feeling that we are not alone, that something unseen is watching us from the shadows. Sarah was a young woman living a seemingly ordinary life. She had a loving family, a close-knit group of friends, and a job that, while not particularly glamorous, provided her with a sense of purpose. But beneath the surface of her ordinary life, Sarah harbored a secret fear, a fear that manifested in the most unexpected of places: her reflection. It began subtly at first, a flicker of movement in the mirror's reflection, a fleeting glimpse of a figure standing just behind her. She would turn around, her heart pounding, but the room would be empty. She dismissed it as tricks of the light, her imagination running wild. As days turned into weeks, the strange occurrences in the mirror grew more frequent, more intense. She began to notice subtle changes in her reflection, a slight distortion of her features, a coldness in her eyes that sent shivers down her spine. It was as if her reflection was slowly morphing into something else, something sinister. One evening, as Sarah was getting ready for bed, she caught a glimpse of something in the mirror that sent a wave of terror crashing over her. Standing behind her, its face obscured by darkness, was a figure. Its eyes, two glowing embers in the darkness, seemed to pierce through her very soul. She froze, her breath caught in her throat, her mind struggling to process what her eyes were seeing. The figure took a step closer, its form becoming clearer, more defined. It was then that Sarah realized with a growing horror that the figure in the mirror was her, or rather a twisted, malevolent version of herself. Panic surged through her. She stumbled backward, her hand instinctively reaching for the light switch. As the room flooded with light, the figure in the mirror vanished, leaving Sarah trembling in the darkness, her heart pounding against her ribs. From that night forward, Sarah couldn't bear to look at her reflection. She covered all the mirrors in her house, terrified of what she might see staring back at her. She tried to tell her friends and family about the strange occurrences, but they dismissed it as stress or exhaustion. But Sarah knew what she had seen in the mirror. It was a chilling glimpse into a dark side of herself, a side she never knew existed. A side that filled her with an overwhelming sense of dread. She was trapped, living in a constant state of fear, haunted by the terrifying realization that the greatest monster she would ever face was staring back at her from the depths of her own reflection. As we emerge from the shadows of these unsettling tales, we're left with a lingering sense of unease, a reminder that the line between reality and nightmare can be terrifyingly thin. These stories, based on real accounts of the unexplained, serve as a chilling testament to the fact that some mysteries are never meant to be solved. They linger in the back of our minds, challenging our perceptions and forcing us to confront the possibility that there are forces at work in our world that we cannot comprehend. The next time you find yourself in a darkened room, a chill running down your spine, remember these stories. Remember that sometimes the most terrifying monsters aren't lurking in the shadows, but within ourselves. Until next time, sleep tight and may your dreams be filled with light, not nightmares.